your schedules to join. Thank you everyone for joining and participating and being thoughtful in the questions, and hopefully it's a really constructive conversation today, supporting informed voters. Quick note, we've all got these on us. Please turn them off. And in every other way, please be respectful. This should be a great day today. And just want to introduce our Rabbi Lindy Resnick.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I just want to take a moment to welcome our community officials and our candidates today for our West Hollywood Forum. I'm Rabbi Lindy Resnick, and I'm Kol Ami Senior Rabbi. It is an honor to be with you this afternoon. Congregation Kol Ami means the voice of the people, and we have a very long-standing tradition, thanks to our Rabbi Emerita, Denise Egger, of fighting for justice and being a space of equality for all. We are honored to hold this space for our West Hollywood community. I want to thank Wendy Goldman, and I want to thank the West Hollywood City Council, who together has put together today's forum. We hope that today helps you make informed decisions as you learn about the candidates, the issues, and what matters for the future of our city. And I want to thank you all for coming out to show your care and your concern for the city of West Hollywood. And with that, I turn it over to our esteemed moderator for today's event, Patrick Auerbach.
Good afternoon. I join President Rebecca Schurz and Rabbi Lindy Resnick in welcoming you to Congregation Kol Ami, West Hollywood's Reformed Synagogue, which has not only been a gem for West Hollywood for a little more than 30 years, but also has a special place in my heart. I actually met my partner here on a Friday night service. When I was tired of going to other West Hollywood establishments, I came to this hot spot on La Brea and met my partner 21 years ago yesterday. So this is a blessed place for all of us because it's a gem in our community. We're grateful for your attendance today, as already has been articulated, and we look forward to a meaningful forum as we prepare for election season, which is kind of already here, but the day is 44 days away. As a reminder, we are providing this nonpartisan forum as an opportunity to get to know our 8 candidates who are on the ballot for 2 open slots in the city election to take place on Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. This afternoon, each candidate will have an opportunity to make very brief introductory remarks, and we will then engage in a substantive discussion based on the questions and input we've received from community members and stakeholders. Time permitting, and we certainly hope there will be time, we'll have time for live questions from all of you. Not all of you, I don't know if we'd have that much time, but anyone who would like to ask a question. And as a reminder, while we certainly value diversity of perspective, we want to assure a civil and respectful dialogue today and always. As such, we will be limiting the content of today's program to topics, issues, and ideas that are directly related to the city of West Hollywood. Any disruptive behavior or noncompliance will result in immediate dismissal from the premises. Let's just hope that that's not what we have to do today, because we have 2 valuable hours to really have some great discussion. So once again, thank you for being here. And now we're going to do introductions. So what I'd like to ask each of these candidates to do, please, each of the 8 candidates, and we'll start here on my right with Larry Block, and we're going to ask you to introduce yourself, the specific West Hollywood West Hollywood neighborhood, in which you live, and why you want to serve on city council. See, those 3 things: your name, your neighborhood, and why you want to serve. And you have 60 seconds. And I have a timer. So go ahead.
Hi, my name is Larry Block. I live in the Tri-West neighborhood of West Hollywood. I'm a homeowner. And I want to serve on West Hollywood City Council because I'm fighting for the independence of our city council. The special interest groups control a large portion of our city. I have 2 businesses that are both community-centric. It's become impossible to be a business owner. I have employees that are forced to go one-on-one, mano-a-mano with any homeless, mentally ill individual in the city. I don't want to be a business owner in the city anymore. So either I fight for them or I close. So I'm running for city council to fix the problems and be able to move this city forward.
Now, that was 45 seconds. That was very good, but you don't get to take the 15 seconds forward later. But we thank you for getting us that time back. All right, Jordan.
I'm going to set my timer as well, so I know exactly where I'm at. I want to say thank you to Kol Ami for having us here today. Thank you to Rabbi Resnick for hosting this. Thank you to our moderator. Thank you to everyone who put this all together. This is so great. These are such important events that we have to make sure that we're getting our ideas and plans out to the residents of West Hollywood. I think we've all noticed that there have been some things going on in West Hollywood that we're not very happy about, with businesses closing their doors and there being a rise in crime and anti-Semitism. And, well, there's always been anti-Semitism. As a Jew, I know that, but it's been increasing. And a city council that doesn't seem to be listening to the wants and needs of what the residents are. And I'm running because I've seen the struggles firsthand of my friends and my neighbors, my family, the people I live alongside, the
5
people
seconds.
I love. I didn't even look at my own timer. And I want to fight for them because they need a voice on city council. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jordan. Mayor Erickson.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mayor John Erickson. I use he, him, his pronouns. Wendy, the entire temple, thank you. You are godsends for all that you're hosting here today. I'm running for another term on the West Hollywood City Council as an East Side resident. I live right on Fountain. I walked here. And I'm running to make sure we invest in homelessness, building affordable housing, making sure that we're continuing to invest more in our sheriff's department, our public safety resources, both unarmed and armed individuals, making sure that we're responding to the progressive needs of this community and ensuring that when someone comes to West Hollywood, they're not only making a wage that's livable, but they're able to uplift their communities even if they don't live in the city of West Hollywood. West Hollywood has long stood for a beacon of values that people look to across the world. And as the mayor of the city and as someone who has traveled across the country, when they say we're from West Hollywood, people want to be us. And we're continuing that trend and the momentum and the great work we've been doing for the last 4 years. So it's great to be here with you all, and let's have some fun.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's now go to Danny.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danny Hang. I'm a candidate for West Hollywood City Council. I am a commissioner for the city, and I previously served on the Disabilities Advisory Board. I currently live in the Mid-City area of West Hollywood, and I'm running for West Hollywood City Council to tackle the issues of affordable housing and homelessness, to tackle the issue of safeguarding our workforce, and increasing our economic growth in the city. I'm tired of seeing businesses close due to commercial high rents in the city. And I'm also running for West Hollywood City Council to make West Hollywood a safer and healthier community. As a social worker myself, I value the importance of investing in programs that deal with drug addiction in our city, with mental health, and also with our unarmed security ambassadors here in the city. And lastly, I'm running for West Hollywood City Council because I love this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Let's move on to Dorian.
Hello, everybody. Before I start, I just want to thank everybody for coming out and joining us today and listening to us and asking us the hard questions. Civic engagement is the benchmark of what makes a great society and make a great society work. My name is Dorian J. Jackson, and I'm running for City of West Hollywood Council because, first and foremost, I live in Mid-City, not too far from the City Hall. I'm running because I believe that in the 40 years that we've been a community, we've always strived for great social justice and bringing equality for everybody and a place where people can breathe. We also need to start now focusing on the young families that we have in this community and how they can raise their children in this community so that we can have people who stay in this community and help our community grow. And as we also need to look into how we're taking care of our elderly community, the ones who fought real hard for us to become a city 40 years ago, and how they're aging in our community and how we're taking care of them. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited for today and to see what we can accomplish.
Thank you. Let's go to George.
Hello, my name is George Nickel. I am a 20-year resident of the city of West Hollywood here on the east side. My husband and I have lived in the same place. I did not move to the city of West Hollywood to work at City Hall. I did not move here to run for city council. When my neighborhood became less safe, I started a neighborhood watch group. My neighborhood watch group wasn't just about public safety, it was also about quality of life issues. So I only became a politician because I'm a fed-up resident. There's a lot that we need to do. I love this city. It's been my home for 20 years, and I intend for it to only thrive. So that is why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Let's move to West.
Hi, everyone. My name is William West Sigmuller. I am a West Side resident. I lived on the East Side for about 7 years until I moved recently. And while it's an honor to be here, the truth is I really don't want to be here. Like George, I'm also a very reluctant politician. I'm happy to, I work in clinical research. I'm a journalist with KPFK on their nightly news program. And I'm really just happy to do my work, be an activist, do my thing. But 2020 changed all of that. I've always been an independent-minded person. I've worked in progressive politics when it's feasible. But after 2020, when I saw an incredibly dangerous erosion of our civil liberties, I knew I had to launch into action. Depending on who you ask, I'm either a local small-town hero or the local lunatic. And I'm happy to wear that with a badge of honor because I'm not controlled by anybody. I'm not controlled by the unions, by any special endorsements, big developers. I really, I have guiding principles of the Constitution, civil liberties, and while I don't have all the answers, I am open to all perspectives because I'm the outsider. And so I've learned to be respectful of people that disagree with me and to protect their right to disagree with me. Thank you.
Thank you, West. And now we'll go to Zakia, also known as Z, please.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Zakia Wright. Thank you all for showing up. It's commendable to spend your Sunday afternoon doing something like this. But I think it's because you realize the importance of this year's election. So at the end of this event, I will ask for your vote. So before that, let me tell you who I am. I'm a business owner. I'm a renter in the city, so I understand the unaffordability issues. I have served on boards and commissions throughout the city. As an advisory board member, I was responsible for drafting a proposal that would protect victims from assault. As a rent stabilization commissioner, I made sure that renters' rights were being protected while also making sure landlords weren't being unfairly penalized. And so for me, being endorsed before by the union and currently by the chamber, it should tell folks, and for me it says that this means this is a person that will come to the table and engage everyone. This is a person that isn't invested in one interest more than the other. It's making sure that our city is able to get out of its divisiveness and be able to move forward so our businesses and our residents, our homeowners, all of those folks feel involved and feel engaged and feel invited to the conversation. And I want to also say that, many of you folks, you know me, you know my character, I've always held myself out with integrity.
5 seconds.
So I'll ask that you ignore, the rumors and the things that you are hearing because we have very important issues to vote for November 5th. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That was a wonderful introduction. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to a mix of questions. Some of these questions have been developed by our internal West Hollywood team here that put this whole event together. Again, thank you to Wendy Goldman, who's going to solve a problem for her leadership. And then we've also been taking questions from many of you who have RSVP'd and submitted questions. So the first question, this is again, we're going to do one more question for the whole group, and then we're going to start getting into a bit more of a, we're going to ping pong around. So there are only 1.9 square miles that make up the city of West Hollywood, believe it or not. So I'm going to ask each of the candidates in 60 seconds or less, where do you believe the city's resources are needed most? So you could list 10 things, but you can limit it to up to 3. So where are the city's resources needed most? And why don't we go reverse order this time? Z, why don't we start with you?
All right, absolutely. So I think that it's not to me divided by region, it's divided by communities, right? We know that our elderly community is the community that's becoming unhomed by the most numbers. So I think our resources should be making sure we're investing in our elderly community and the folks that, again, were part of founding the city, making it possible for it to be what it is today. I think second, we need to make sure we're keeping money with our disabled community. We already know that as our buildings are much older, they're beautiful, they're charming, but they also don't have elevators and some resources that our disabled community needs, and I think it's an investment we have to make. And lastly, public safety. We know that folks don't feel safe. Many of my neighbors or even folks themselves have been the victim of crimes on our streets, and we have to make sure there are people in the neighborhoods that are protecting our residents. And also, we can't forget about our businesses in that equation who are also dealing with folks coming in, destroying and stealing things from them. And so I think an investment in those 3 groups also helps the rest of our community continue to grow and to benefit from those resources. Thank you.
Thank you. West, we'll go with you now.
Yeah, so I agree. It's also not just geographical. Obviously, the east side, where I lived for many years, it's always been sort of neglected when, especially, and I understand the crime really tends to be on the west side in the commercial district, but we have overemphasis on our tourism economy and on the nightlife and bringing people from outside of West Hollywood. And so the residents really get neglected, and that's sort of reflected on the east side. And so I think that we need to center our residents. We need to center people that are living here. We need to encourage businesses that are serving the everyday needs of West Hollywood, not just trying to get that tourism dollars. I also think that we need to move away from a drug economy, like a drug tourism economy. There's a place for natural medicine. There's a place for, things like that. But we really do need to get back to affordable, basic needs for residents. So that's where I think money should go. And also,
5 seconds.
like some people have said, we need to bring back family values to West Hollywood.
Thank you very much, West. Let's go ahead, George.
Thank you. So there are issues that are citywide that need to be addressed. Number one is affordability. Everywhere is unaffordable in West Hollywood if you're moving here now. So the answer is to try to build affordable housing and for adaptive reuse for buildings that are neglected, that are not being used right now, to turn that into affordable housing wherever possible. Our small businesses, and I'm talking about our small businesses. If you work beside the people that you hire, you're a small business. They're all hurting. The Sunset Strip, there's hardly any foot traffic. They're hurting. There's a lot that we need to do to help our small businesses. And public safety. I'm a public safety commissioner. I started a neighborhood watch group because of public safety. Everything focuses on that. It touches everything. We absolutely have to, the moment that they are available, hire more sworn police officers. We need them on our streets, on foot patrol, and we need them on bike patrols in our neighborhoods
5
and on
seconds.
our streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to you, Dorian.
When you're talking about using funds that are benchmarked or they're earmarked for the residents, it becomes a balancing game. I currently work in local government, and I work with budgeting. And when it comes to what you're spending your dollars on and where you want to see your money go, I am a big proponent in public spaces, parks, public facilities that the residents can utilize and actively use. I also think that we have neglected our aging community. As they are aging, they need more ADD help or access to things. And we've been stuck in this cycle where people can't move up into better living because they can't afford to live in this neighborhood. And this is the only neighborhood they've ever lived in.
5 seconds.
So we should focus on getting places to be upgraded so that people can have a fair chance and live comfortably going into their twilight years.
Thank you. Danny.
Thank you so much. As a social worker for Los Angeles County, I think we should definitely focus our funding on our older adult and disabled community. We are a community that values aging in place for our city. And what better place to age in place than in West Hollywood? And I think we should also, as a social worker, I think we should also invest our money in mental health treatment for drug addiction and homelessness, because that is an issue on the street. A lot of our unhoused neighbors are suffering from mental health crisis across West Hollywood and throughout Los Angeles County. So we should invest in programs to help our neighbors get off the streets. And we should also invest in public safety. Public safety is an issue in our community, but it doesn't just mean deputy sheriffs. It also means having streetlights at night in dark neighborhoods where you can walk around and see where you're going. It also means investing in our block-by-block unarmed security ambassadors that help supplement our deputy sheriffs. A deputy sheriff should not be called to
5 seconds.
answer to an unhoused person. That's what our block-by-block is for.
Thank you. John.
Well, the answer I talk to residents about every day are streets, trees, and sidewalks. This is something that I hear every day, making sure our green space is amazing and well kept. Plummer Park, where I go every day. I was just there 2 hours ago, making sure it's accessible to everyone and upgraded. So we have the great facilities there that are along these historic treasures. Sidewalks, people walk around our outdated sidewalk infrastructure all over the city. It's a liability to the city. We need to do all that we can to make sure that we're investing directly in the streets, because remember, at the end of the day, 70% of the traffic that comes through West Hollywood is pass-through traffic, so then streets. So our streets themselves are unsafe. I just tried to take a right on coming across a crosswalk, and a car just tried to take me out on Fountain, but it's not a dangerous street, of course. But ultimately, making sure that we're doing all that we can to invest in the streets that we have for our businesses that come here, so they have adequate parking and resources. And then anyone up here on all these great ideas from the other candidates, homelessness, housing, mental health, all of those things along with public safety are stuff we already talk about at the council.
5 seconds.
And they're great ideas as well that we can all work to have solutions towards.
Thank you. Jordan.
Thank you. So I will say that I forgot to mention earlier what part of the city I'm from, and I am in Center City, so I'll quickly mention that. But of the 3 things that I think we need to spend our resources on the most, I would say number 1 is public safety. If we don't have public safety, then you don't have anything. We had someone recently beat almost to death a few blocks away from me in Center City at Barney's Beanery. And if you don't have safety, then no one's going to want to come to your city and participate and do anything that's going on there. The second thing I would do would be support businesses. We need to do everything we can to fill these empty business spaces in the city. You can either say it's because you want to help businesses, or you can say it's because I want their tax dollars. Whatever reason you think it is, both of them are valid, and we need both. Finally, I think affordable housing is where we need to spend some resources to. Housing has become more than 30% of people's income, and we need to make sure that people like seniors and the homeless and people who are aging in place can stay where they live. Thank you.
Thank you. And Larry.
Hi. First of all, I don't know if I mentioned, I wear my sunglasses. I had 2 detached retinas. I'm blind in one eye. I'm disabled. So I work very much to empower others to do a lot of things that I can't do myself. My number 1 priority is public safety. If I can't open my store because there's a homeless person coming in harassing my employees, or they're laying in front of the store that day and you can't get anybody, if we don't clean up that, we're not going to fill any vacant storefronts. People don't want to come to West Hollywood. They come into my store to mention what happened to West Hollywood. And that's the way we're going to rebuild our city, with incentivized programs for filling vacant storefronts by mitigating landlord risk on short-term leases versus these long-term leases. My plan is to allocate 25% of our budget surplus, which is about $30 million, into public safety with foot patrols on the street so people can feel safe to come to West Hollywood. And then my number 1 priority besides that is changing the total spend in this city, where we allocate it towards our seniors and disabled population, so we have transitional housing. So when a homeless person is on the street, they have transitional housing, but if a senior gets Ellis'd out, they got nowhere to go. So I want to protect the safety net for seniors and disabled folks.
Thank you. Okay. Our next question has come in, and it was about green space. So I heard green space mentioned. I think actually everything that was mentioned here, thank you, lines perfectly, but we do have a couple of wild cards as well. But we'll start with green space. Green space in a shrinking tree canopy harms residents in our overcrowded city. The city has often purchased property to create small parks like Kings Road Park, Hart Park, and the temporary community garden at Detroit Street. What do you think about the purchase of property for the Sunset Strip residents, given that multiple developments have been approved or are close to it, to provide public green space, a community garden, a dog park, and or shade trees? So not everybody has to answer that, but would anybody like to speak to that? Okay, well, we're going to start with Z, and then we'll go to George, and then I'm not sure John wanted to, but Z, why don't we start with you?
Absolutely. So regrettably, most of us probably have heard that Pink Taco closed on Sunset Strip. And so on one of the news publications, I just posted a question like, what would you want there? So residents could kind of chime in, because that's, as a council member, is the way that I would want to create policy, is by asking, my residents, my neighbors, you all, what those things are. And someone suggested the city buying that space, making it a park, and putting a cafe there. which I think is an amazing idea. I think it's such a big lot, and it's also, I live, it's top of my street, at the top of many streets, Harper, et cetera, along the way, that would really benefit from having, just a nice coffee spot to walk to, and also to walk our dogs. I know most of my neighbors' dogs before I know their names, the dogs' names before I know their names. And so I think it's just another place, another way for us to build community, for us to make our city green, and also to bring a little, brightness up to Sunset. At least on that end. I think Sunset's great, but I think that end particularly would benefit from something like that.
Thank you.
So thank you, neighbor, for giving me that idea.
George.
Yes, thank you. We have a mental health crisis, and we see it every day on the streets. Trees are calming. Green spaces are calming. It makes a difference. Absolutely. So one of the reasons why we chose to move to the east side when we did is because Plummer Park is right here. And thankfully, Plummer Park was saved by the dedicated work of West Hollywood residents. They stepped up and they saved it. That's why there are trees there today. So I absolutely support green spaces everywhere that we possibly can in the city because, again, it's calming. And any chance that there is to have a place for people to walk to, it's foot traffic. If you have parks and you have businesses in between, there's a place to get to, and you can spend some money in between as you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry, and then John, and then Danny, and then we'll move on to the next question. Go ahead, Larry.
I've been the former chair of the City Public Facilities Commission as we invested in all our parks, and we've continued to allocate assets and resources to improving all the parks in each neighborhood. The Hart Park, which is going through its renovation now after we re-signed the lease with the City of LA, and now is currently implementing the dog park, that goes up to Sunset. The steps go right up to Sunset to fill that. There was a different proposal years ago about including a pocket park up by where Tower Records was, and the city opted to make it a parking lot. But the residents in WeHo North wanted a pocket park there. So, of course, there's space, but taking a commercial space that somebody privately owns, like Pink Taco, and saying the city's going to buy it and put it into a park is a little bit very expensive park with that real estate. And there is a park on Sunset with Hart Park. So, yeah, we have to continue to build our parks and our green spaces, and that's what I believe in, and we are doing it. The city allocates tremendous resources for its green space and open parks.
Thank you. John?
I love this policy. I think, George, at council, you called it like the sit under a tree policy when you came and spoke under public comment that one time. Great idea. When we're looking at our green space, it's really important that we're doing all that we can. So the city's already buying up a number of properties that we can. As you can imagine, when we get into the commercial real estate realm, we're bidding with private businesses as well, something that I think Larry rightfully pointed out, and the cost that it is. So the city can only buy a piece of land for actually what it's retailed at worth, right? So if it's worth $10 million, we can't just all of a sudden say, hey, we're going to take $12 million of your tax money and give it to it when we're dealing with someone who has $20 million to go do it. However, we are able to actually work with a number of these developers because they're private individuals, they want to see stuff on their land, and they actually are most of the time willing to work with the city of West Hollywood. Sunset Strip, we need to actually get the Standard Hotel back up and working, so cutting red tape at City Hall to make sure that hotel gets back up quickly will provide a lot of the foot traffic, and then making sure that we're all working with our neighborhood watches because they actually know exactly what's needed in the community, and Sunset is ripe for that type of involvement and development.
Thank you. And then Danny, and then we'll move on to the next question, please.
So, thank you so much. All these are really great ideas. Space is limited in West Hollywood. I like to think outside the box. In New York, they have rooftop green spaces. An idea that I would propose would be to have rooftop green spaces on city-owned properties. Perhaps the library, part of it, perhaps part of City Hall. So that is what they do on the East Coast, and that's something that I think would benefit the residents here in West Hollywood. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Now we're going to go to pedestrian safety. And I heard Fountain Avenue invoked. And Fountain, I think, has a lot of notoriety outside of the 1.9 square miles of West Hollywood. So for pedestrian safety and mobility have been a hotly contested debate with arguments in favor of protected bike lanes on Fountain Avenue and greater enforcement of rental e-scooters riding on sidewalks and perhaps ignoring traffic signals. Maybe the scooters ignore it, but it doesn't mean the people riding them should. So what is your solution to a shared solution? For Fountain, who would like to take that?
Do you mind what is the question? What is your solution to
What is your solution to a shared solution?
a shared solution between renting e-bikes and having protected bike lanes?
Correct. How do you do both?
I'm happy while he's writing down the question.
Okay, we'll go
Sure.
to John, then we'll go to George, and then we'll go to Jordan, and we'll go to
So I'm
Larry.
the only candidate that lives on Fountain Avenue. My neighbors and I know each other best because we're always coming outside when someone's being pulled out of a car. No one wants to live that way in the back of their neighborhood. We all know Fountain Avenue is a horrible street, right? That needs community input and all the work that we can do to envision it. And I just want to also reiterate, all of our streets are actually unsafe. Not too long ago, not to invoke horrible imagery, but there was a car in the middle of this temple on the second story because it went airborne. And it was launched into here. That was La Brea, Crescent Heights. These streets all need to be updated. The city is out of date for 40 years, not investing in our streets, trees, and sidewalks. And we have to do all that we can to get it right. The scooters, you can have a comment about if you like them or don't like them, but residents do like them and they do use them. No one is wanting them to intrude in anyone's right of way. We want to get it right, which is why we actually cut down only to 200 scooters. And we're seeing the data itself present a highly successful program for us because of the usage rates around the city. So I think I answered all of those for you, and that's it.
I believe you did. I believe you did. Okay. Next was going to be George, and then Jordan. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. So I'm completely against, and I have been against since I started running in December, the idea of putting protected bike lanes on Fountain. It's unpopular. The most important thing is that there has not been outreach to residents. They will say that there has been outreach, but talk to people. Someone showed up at an event of mine a few days ago. They're over a 50-year resident of the city. They've never been to a political event before, and they came out because of this. There are other solutions. We can find ways to have bicyclists have a safe place to ride. Fountain, you're talking about taking away parking from people all along the street. You have not reached out to our first responders. This is, again, I always go back to public safety. When HLA was passing in the city of Los Angeles, the Firemen's Union came out against it because it is going to reduce response times to 911 calls. Response times to 911 calls. People's lives at risk. They haven't even talked to them yet. They did talk to Athens. It was mentioned that they talked to Athens, the garbage people, but they failed to mention that Athens told them that if you did this, you would have traffic jams out the city. So the most important thing is to figure out how to make it ADA accessible. I completely support that. We need more lighting, we need better crosswalks. The city is already doing something, it came through public safety, to reduce the speeds around the city to try to help safety as far as vehicular accidents.
5 seconds.
And another thing that we need to do, talking about right here, is we should look at a scramble right here at the most dangerous intersection in the city, which is La Brea and Santa Monica. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're going to go to Jordan, and then to Danny, and then do you want to answer as well, Dorian? And I think we might have everybody. So obviously, it's a big issue, so we're happy to have everybody. So let's go ahead, Jordan.
Thank you so much. So Commissioner Nickel already reiterated a lot of the things that I was going to tell you. The protected bike lanes and reducing Fountain Avenue to one lane going each way is so incredibly unpopular. It's been over 80% of residents in the area say that they do not want it. They don't want to get rid of the parking. They are not concerned about having extra bike lanes on Fountain Avenue when you can be riding your bike on Santa Monica Boulevard. And if there were bike lanes on Fountain Avenue, let's say that there were, you're going to end up on Los Cienega Boulevard, where you either need to climb a gigantic hill to get up to La Brea, to Sunset, or you need to go down the hill to get to Santa Monica Boulevard, and I guess just pray that your brakes don't fail and hope that you don't get hit by a car. I see I have 7 seconds left, but I think it would be better to have bike lanes on Santa Monica Boulevard, continuing that on Fountain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to go to Dorian, and then we want to do Danny, and then Larry, I think you wanted to as well. And then maybe even Z. Okay.
All right, in regards to pedestrians and public safety, I used to live right there across from Palmer Park. I've seen cars ricochet off other cars as they're going down the street. I've used to work where when I get out of work late at night, it took me almost 30 minutes some nights just to find parking to get home after a long day of working. We're always going to have a problem with parking because we are a small city and a dense city, very dense. We can talk about, oh, we can put more ball outs on the corners or put some K7s up to make sure that people are being directed to drive slower, to drive more safety, reducing the speed limit. These are all things that, as public safety, as traffic control is done in a lot of cities to curb a lot of accidents. But a big part of it that we cannot seem to figure out and get right is how do we educate people on being safe on the streets. We need to figure how to let people know that,
5 seconds.
I'm sorry, let people know that, you know, this is a slower street. There's people in the area walking. It's ADA, this is a walkable neighborhood. It has a high walkable score. And sometimes we focus more on people who are driving when we should be focused on the people that walk.
Thank you. Danny.
Thank you so much. You know, I live off of Fountain Boulevard. It is unsafe. Cars careen up and down Fountain at 40, 50 miles an hour, crash into cars, crash into apartment buildings. On top of that, Fountain is not ADA compliant. The sidewalks are not wide enough for moms or dads with single or double strollers, or persons in wheelchairs, or persons with disabilities who ambulate with walkers. It is not safe. Cars careen up and down Fountain and can hit people and can hit children. I support the redesign of Fountain Boulevard to make things safe. People are talking about the loss of parking space. Well, you know, I'm talking about the loss of safety for the past 30 years for the residents around Fountain. Let's return Fountain back to the residents of West Hollywood. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Larry.
Hi. First on pedestrian safety, some of you have been here a long time and think back to Santa Monica Boulevard. I founded Cross Safe WeHo. Cross Safe WeHo, after the death of Clint Bounds, we petitioned to reorganize and retool Santa Monica. The most dangerous parts of the city was Santa Monica Boulevard between Doheny and La Cienega, where there were deaths every year, 2 or 3 a summer. And I sat with city staff. After city council approved it, it took 1.5 years before they even lost the file. On scooters, I'm absolutely against on-demand scooters, but I could tell you, ownership of scooters, if we can encourage that, my employees need scooters to get to work. Fountain Avenue is a very complex problem. This council voted to accept the funds to put a bike lane. Everybody wants to argue whether they like it or not. We're getting the funds, and now we have to think of a way to do it all. We have to figure out a way, if there's a center median that's for emergency vehicles so that they can come in and out. If there's peak hours where you don't have bike lanes at night so cars can flow at night, and during the afternoon it could adapt, and we have to figure a way to have it all. First and foremost, accessibility on the sidewalks for everybody. One side of the streets could be sidewalks, the other side could be parallel parking. We got to figure out a way to have it all on that street at this point with those funds.
Thank you. Let's move on now to a related issue, and that is
Can I chime in?
Oh, I'm sorry, Z. I apologize, please.
No worries. I'm down here on the end. I get it. So there's been obviously a lot of controversy around fountain bike lanes. And the simple fact is that residents that were asked, that knew about it, don't want it. And it's not that we or any of our neighbors don't want better transportation options or more mobility. It's just that Fountain does not make sense for this plan. And it's not a done deal. What City Council did was they agreed to be reimbursed for spending $8.2 million. So if we don't seek reimbursement, then this project doesn't have to go forward. So just to clarify that. But also the argument that if we build it, they will come, we know is false. Mayor Erickson had a pilot bike program where the city gave 50 bikes to people to use. All they had to do was ride it 20 miles a month. By the end of the program, there were 10 participants left. And what they said was that there's not enough places to park bikes within their house. There isn't places to park it on the streets. Theft, nowhere to repair it. And so we're trying to build out this grandiose scheme and spend all of this money when we don't even have basic infrastructure in place. And so I think if we want the city to be more mobile, which I do, and I'm sure many of you do, we need to make the investment on the front end instead of putting the cart before the horse. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll try to. I know we all agree. We'll try to keep the applause to a minimum till afterwards, when we can give ourselves all a rousing round of applause. Let's go now to the issues of our what some would call our disabled community, people with special needs. What would you do to protect those vulnerable members of our community? And again, you could define that any way you want. People who may have some special needs. Would anybody like to speak to that? Anybody? Please, Larry.
Well, the first thing is we have about 11,000 seniors at about 25,000 or 28,000 total residents. It's about 40% of the population. And the seniors are basically left behind completely. When we talk about the way the council spends money on pet projects and other things, it's the seniors that are the ones who are left behind. We spend so much money on homeless, and if a homeless person is going to be able to go into a homeless transitional facility, but if a senior is ellised out of their apartment because the developer sold the building, they literally have nowhere to go. My goal, my #1 goal, is to turn Fairfax Avenue into a senior and assisted facility center hub for our city. A new person, West Hollywood Senior Living Facility, took over that current old shack that became a beautiful 80-bed unit that's on Fairfax for my neighbor who just checked in there. And we don't have any assistance, so we can grow old in West Hollywood. That's the most important. Do we all want to have to leave here when we're alone at 80 or 90 and get sick? I don't want to leave here. I want to be able to go real local with my community and be able to live and die in West Hollywood. So that's my priority.
Thank you. Jordan, and then we'll go to West.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay. So I just want to start by saying that I do not suffer from any disability, and I don't know the plights that people with different disabilities go through every single day. I'm fortunate enough that I don't have to deal with that. So one of my biggest platforms that I've always said through my council race is that I want to hear from you. I need to hear from you what you need in this city, and I'm here to listen to you. There are city council members who don't care about what you want or what you need. They're just worried about how they're going to get elected to their next higher office. I'm here to work for you and to see what you need and to help get those things for you. So if I don't have any ideas, to be honest, but if you do, I would love for you to come up and tell me after the forum today, because that's what I'm going to start fighting for, and I will make sure to fight for that for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Let's go to West, then Dorian, and then we'll go to George.
All right, so I think everyone's got great ideas here. I'm really interested in Larry's idea for the senior community, but I myself am someone who lives with a chronic medical disability that was caused by pharmaceutical injury. About 20 years ago, I was in a class action lawsuit against the drug manufacturer, and so, that's really why I was precluded from receiving the COVID vaccine in the first place. But before I get to that, I think it's really important, going back to the last question, that when we think about the ADA responsibilities that the city has, that's why e-scooters on the sidewalks are unacceptable. That's also why the delivery robots, the fleets, we just signed on to turn that pilot program into this exponential. We're going to see those all over. That is a huge liability for pets, for people with disabilities, and it's also just anti-worker. Those people, it's like we're importing third world workers working virtually while we're displacing actual low-wage workers in West Hollywood. So I don't know where this idea that that's progressive comes from. But most importantly, and the reason why I'm running a campaign, is because I would codify a protection from medical discrimination, like what happened in 2020, when people were not able to go shopping, they weren't able to go into stores, schools, churches, mosques, temples, shut down or discriminated based on medical status. That is unacceptable. It's anti-American and it's unconstitutional.
Dorian, and then we'll go to George and then Danny.
First and foremost, we need to stop calling our aging seniors disability abilities. They have great abilities and still want to do wonderful things and still want to be part of the community, and we shouldn't look at them as something that we need to help or fix or move along. We need to help support. When you turn 50, you'll see how much things you start telling you. I am partially deaf, so hearing things on the crosswalk to say wait or just to have those social cues or to hear what I normally can't hear because the traffic is too loud really helps. We need to unthink of people that we're here to just give people things to make them better. A person who is suffering from any kind of disability or ability just wants support and a way for them to have an equal opportunity to do things. And that's how we should focus ourselves and look at things.
Thank you. Okay, George and then Danny.
Thank you. So now is when I get to talk about e-scooters, which I didn't get in when we were talking about Fountain. They are a hazard to older adults, They're a hazard to people with disabilities. And this really came to light to me when I was walking on my street, Norton, nice little quiet street. Neighbor called me, needed something. I went out, it was dark, and I went to walk, and there was an e-scooter parked on the sidewalk. Not parked like this on the sidewalk, but parked completely blocking the sidewalk, just left there. It's absolutely ridiculous because I thought, I stopped. My grandmother's been dead for 40 years, but I thought she had polio. How could she have gotten around this scooter? She couldn't have. It's ridiculous. And the argument the city council majority keeps using is that this lowers carbon emissions. Their own survey showed that 66% of the people who use these scooters use them in place of walking. Walking. The most environmentally friendly thing that you can do, the thing that we should want everyone to do in the city. You need safe streets with lower crime. You need e-scooters to be out of the way if you're an older adult, if you have a disability, or if you just want to go out and have a nice day in the sun. Thank you.
Thank you. Danny, please.
Thank you so much. You know, as a social worker, I believe that, you know, infrastructure redesign would benefit our older adult and disabled community members. The redesign of Fountain is a prime example of that. A person who ambulates in a wheelchair or an older adult who ambulates in a walker or other assist devices can safely walk down Fountain Boulevard when it is redesigned and is ADA compliant. And further, with regards to older adult and disabled community members, the city should further invest in partner organizations like the DCRC, the Disability Resource Center. My friend Mikey here was able to use our services. They actually came to her house when she told me, and they made her drawers ADA accessible. So that is a program. And other people in the city here have gotten chairs and beds from DCRC. So West Hollywood should definitely make more investments into our partner organizations like DCRC, as well as Jewish Family Services to come out to help our older adult and disabled community members. Thank you.
I just want to say that I don't think that that's appropriate for him to mention Mikey because she didn't give permission for him to do that or mention any of that, and she's saying that right now.
Okay. All right. So let's now please move to the next question.
I raised my hand, but if that's
I'm
okay.
sorry, John.
That's okay. There's a lot of people up
Yeah,
here.
there's a lot. And I think let me take the audience's temperature as well. Are there other questions that folks are going to want to ask? Because I got plenty more here, but I want to make sure we're respectful. So, like a basic show of hands.
Great.
Is there something you want to ask that hasn't been discussed yet? Okay, good. So we'll go with a couple more questions, and then at the top of the hour, we'll shift to a Q&A with the audience. John, did you want to speak?
Yeah, sure. So when I think about our older adults and individuals with disabilities, I look at the ways in which we're investing in making sure people don't fall into homelessness or making sure that they stay home, right? So we are dealing with, after COVID, a rampant rise of people that were outwardly predatory when it came to older adults and people with disabilities. They were people that hadn't had their bathrooms updated in years. Their landlord, when they were finally able to go in there, was trying to find everything and anything they could to evict them. And these are people who have been in rent-controlled or rent-stabilized units for quite some time, and that's predatory. So what we did is we updated our tenant harassment protection ordinance for the first time in a number of years and made it really, really strong. And we brought on other individuals who have a really gained trust in our community, like the Coalition for Economic Survival, who is helpful here with their tenant harassment protection clinics that they're doing, so tenants know their rights, because a lot of state laws also changed during this time, so people could get help from the state, the county, and everyone else that was available, because what we saw after COVID is making sure we stopped people who are most at risk from falling into all these different types of chasms, and we don't want anyone else on our streets, and we want to help protect them. So I think about it in the ways that we've invested in those resources.
Thank you. Okay, let's now go ahead and move on, and we're going to talk about historic preservation and development. They have the potential to conflict. Please share your thoughts about the balance between them and how either or both of them serve the community. Again, that's historic preservation vis-a-vis property development. Would anybody like to speak to that? Okay, George.
All right. So I have a lot to say about this, and one of the reasons why I'm not taking money from big developers is because of this. They've had control of city council for years, and we absolutely have to do a better job of making certain that when they get approval to do something in our city, that they can complete it. On the east side here, we all know there is one developer that had approval for over 20 projects. There are lovely empty buildings, which are just fuel waiting to turn into fires. And they're completely empty. People were Ellised out of them. And then we have holes that they never completed. And then they have almost completed buildings, but they went bankrupt. It is amazing that they had the approval after approval after approval. And then you have buildings that actually do have historical significance, like the French Market, where a lot of gay rights organizations met early on, and where there's a lot of history that has been sitting boarded up for years. It goes again back to public safety. When you have empty buildings, it's blight. People squat
5
there,
seconds.
they set fires. It's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Jordan.
Thank you so much. Mine will be really quick. I just want to reiterate one of the things that Commissioner Nichols said is that I'm not an expert on what should be preserved and what shouldn't be preserved. I'm 30. I just turned 33 last Saturday. There are a lot of buildings in the city that are much older than I am, so I'm not really sure. But
We'll have protection for you on your way out today, but you can keep going. You get 5 extra seconds.
I would like protection, please, historic preservation protection. But I think there are council members who are in the pockets of developers and who are willing to accept money in exchange for demolishing buildings that matter to the city and are important to the city.
Thank you. I think we had Dorian, and then we'll go to Larry.
History matters. I'm a huge history buff, so I believe that we need to preserve what is historical, what makes us West Hollywood. Before we were West Hollywood, we were Shermantown, and we had that nice railroad that went straight down Santa Monica Boulevard that got covered over. There are a few buildings left over from Shermantown, over by the Vons, where the police station is. There's some historical buildings that are still left over from when it was Shermantown. And I think you lose who you are when you start over-modernizing. Yes, should be progression, but over-modernizing things. And I live right by the French Market, and it is, every day I see it, it is a sad, from what it used to be to what it's become, it is a very sad thing. And we just need to let people accountable. I think if you restore something, it should be done with grace and integrity than just tearing it down and starting new.
Thank you. Larry.
This is an interesting question when we talk about development. If we look around the town and you see the Melrose Triangle or the Arts Club, and you see the major developments and the holes in the ground, the French Marketplace, these were all items that the Chamber of Commerce stood up and said, tear down those buildings. We're for them. So when George wants to say that he doesn't take money from developers, but the developers back the Chamber of Commerce, that's a little bull. And then also, with the Viper Room, he took a donation from the Viper Room, and then he returned the donation from the Viper Room to the developer. But the most interesting point about developments is if we can look at these projects that are stuck for so many years and see if we can call them back, give them 12 months or revert their permits to be able to build or sell the property, because they're getting away too much. I met with Jason Lillian 2 weeks ago to find out how to move his projects along. His 2 projects are the factory project
5 seconds.
And the French Marketplace. At this particular point, he's only looking to lease the French Market. I suggested Casita del Campo, but he also said that he has projects in LA that move right along, and business is very tough to do in West Hollywood. The interest rates have crippled things. The city's policies have crippled
We need to
things.
move on. Yes. All right. Thank you. Okay, we'll do 1 minute each, and then we have 2 more full questions. Then we're going to go to Q&A. So, okay, good. Please.
So
George,
let me
and
be
then-
very, very clear. Somebody hosted an event for me, and a man from the Viper Room came. I will talk to anyone. Just because I don't take your money doesn't mean I would not give you a fair shake when I'm elected. You shouldn't do that, okay? So when he came, and I met him, and I had a nice conversation with him, perfectly fine. And then we found that he had, during the RSV process, had donated $100. We returned it because that's integrity. 74% of my donors are West Hollywood residents. West Hollywood residents.
Okay, let's go to, was it Danny? You wanted to rebuttal?
Thank you. I apologize for mentioning Mikey. It was mentioned during a meeting when Dab gave David from DCRC an award, and you spoke about it publicly. But I should have consulted with you prior to that. Yes.
Thank you. Okay. And do we have any more
But I am for balanced development. As long as development where you involve the community members' input, then it could move forward. But it's got to be a balanced development that involves input from the community. Thank you.
Can I answer the actual question? Is that okay? Thank you. Thank you. This is something that's really important that we're seeing with a lot of our really great structures that have been identified in our historic resource survey. That is due for an update, so we need to look at that with our Historic Preservation Commission. A lot of these developments that we've been seeing that have been coming forth have stopped. A lot of their loans went through pre-COVID and then post. That's what happened with the French Marketplace. I talked to those individuals. SCE also got involved and told them that they needed a random power structure in the back alleyway that they actually never planned for in the entitlements process, that had to start going through the whole process again. And SCE is an independent agency that then came in at the 11th hour and was costing millions of dollars. And the city was trying to work with them on that. And it's unfortunate because great French onion soup and great French fries, if I have to say so myself, right? And then additionally, when I think about historic resources, it's the stuff that we always see right here in our communities that are just beautiful and should be preserved, and do all that we can to make sure that we're doing everything possible.
Okay. Jordan, do you want to speak? And then we are going to move on to the
Really
next
quickly,
question.
I'll just say, so much of what's been said just sounds like excuse after excuse after excuse. And we don't need council members who are just giving excuses. We need council members who are going to work for the people of the city, because that's their job. That's why they're elected. That's why they're hired. That's what they're supposed to do.
Okay, so let's, all right, so now we're going to go to one final question, since we had quite a robust, response there. We're going to go to one final question, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. So when we do open it up for Q&A, we do have a mic runner, so we'll get to that in a moment. But the final question of these pre-prepared questions, as I sift through everything here, has to do with anti-Semitism, which obviously is a very important topic, especially for this institution, which is hosting us today. So, as we all know, anti-Semitism has been growing globally, but also right here in our own community. What do you think West Hollywood can do to educate our citizens about what is and is not anti-Semitism and is lethal and pervasive? Please tell us how you plan to address concerns about anti-Semitism in our local community, and how can we be sure that Jewish residents in WeHo feel safe and protected? So who would like to start? We'll start with George, and then we'll go to Jordan.
Thank you very much. So what amazes me is that if you take the word Jew and replace it with any other minority, the things that are being said, people would be canceled over, and they would be canceled by the people saying it. It's absolutely appalling. When I was appointed to the Public Safety Commission before I was even sworn into office, one of my very first calls was to Rabbi Egger to see what she needed to make sure that this is a safe place. People forget that West Hollywood was founded not only for gay and lesbian rights, it was also founded for rent stabilization. And it was founded by gay men and Jewish women. So when the Department of Homeland Security in November of 2022 warned of increased terrorist threats against the gay and lesbian and Jewish communities, it amazed me when City Council voted, City Council majority, including our current mayor, to cut 2 of our sheriff's deputies. After that warning was made, we absolutely have to hold people to account when it comes to anti-Semitism. My husband was just at a store recently here on the east side. Their mezuzah was ripped off of their door frame. They've been there for over 20 years. We've seen anti-Semitic graffiti going up. It has to be called out when we see it. I absolutely, you know what, people are going around and they're knocking on doors and they're telling people that I'm a Republican. I have Republican friends, it's fine. It's just simply not
5
true. I'm a
seconds.
32-year Democrat, and one of the reasons why they're doing it is because of my strong support of Israel, which is a democratic thing going back to Truman. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Jordan.
It's funny, Commissioner Nickel mentioned that people are calling you a Republican endorse. I've heard the same thing about me too, so they must be doing that to both of us. But I will say that I guess, I don't know the right word, but I'll use the word fortunate enough that my mother was Jewish and my father was not, so my last name isn't Jewish. So I didn't experience a lot of anti-Semitism growing up, but I saw it all around me. And my mother grew up in a household that had bricks thrown through their windows because they were Jewish, and experienced an extreme amount of anti-Semitism. And as hard as it is, the important thing is to make sure that we bring these instances to light, because Anti-Semitism is not a new thing, in case anyone was wondering. This has been happening for over 2,000 years, and we need to make sure that we are bringing these instances to the public attention so everyone knows that this is not okay and that we are not going to stand for it, and we will do everything we can to stop it. Oh, wow, my timer worked.
Thank you. Okay,
That
we're
was the
going to do
first.
Larry, then we're going to do West, and then I think we got Z. So we've got, and then I think, all right. So Larry, West, and then Z.
I'm 65 years old and I grew up in New York, and it was really surprised to experience anti-Semitism at my level. My mother would always tell me, you know, they want to kill the Jews. We're driving down to Florida, and then you see the KKK on the side of the road, and you get scared. You know, and I moved out to West Hollywood. I never thought that I would experience the type of anti-Semitism that I do here. Like George says, those symbols are painted on my store windows. The comments that come into WeHo Online, the anti-Semitic comments and what we experience. I've had 3 mezuzahs ripped off my storefront. I don't even want to put any more on the store. And I try to play down the fact that it's a Jewish-owned business because that's the world we live in. But and everything going on in the world right now is just too tough. But, you know, I'm not a believer of 10 eyes for 1 eye. I'm not a believer of killing 10 innocent people because 1 innocent person got killed. There has to be a better way to find a common ground where everybody can get along in a 2-state solution in Israel, and that we don't have to suffer the repercussions of the wars that are going on over there and all the strife that comes on. So I think we have to all sit at the table and find a way to work together is the answer to education and anti-Semitism in West Hollywood.
Thank you. I believe who was next? I think, okay, Z, excuse me, West.
Yeah, thank you everyone for sharing your experiences, and I'm sorry for what some of your families have gone through. I think it's important to realize that when West Hollywood City Council is weighing in on international issues, it sets a tone and it can actually escalate tensions within our community locally. So, you know, however you feel about the conflict in Israel and Palestine, it's a problem from my perspective when West Hollywood City Council purports to speak for all of us and says, we stand with Israel. This is our position on Iran. This is our position on whatever the conflict is of the day. That has direct implications for the tensions between our Arab communities and our Jewish communities. And it's also really important to make a meaningful distinction between support or criticism of the state of Israel and anti-Semitism. And I mean, let's just be real. I think when, you know, pro-Palestine or anti-war protests are happening in West Hollywood, or there's graffiti saying Free Palestine, it is not in the service of the fear of the Jewish community to point at that and say, look, anti-Semitism, they're coming for you. There are real instances of hatred and threats of violence against our Jewish communities in West Hollywood, and we don't need to be scaring people with people having a political view. Thank you.
Danny, and it was Z and then Danny.
Thank you. So I think education has to start from the top, right? And so if we're talking about how do we educate people, we need to make sure that the folks that are in community, that are on our city council, are also competent on the issues and can speak to them and aren't using words that are dividing or anti-Semitic or that cause anyone to believe that we're anything but fully supportive of our Jewish community, of our Arab community, of all of our communities. We're a city that is about togetherness and cohesiveness, and I think that has to start from the top. I think second, we also should be culturally competent throughout our policies, right? So we know that high holy days are coming up. And so the city should say to itself, why don't we reach out to all of our synagogues, make sure that they are fully prepared and have the security and the things that they need. We should be proactive in these things. We know that, you know, when the holidays are coming up, we know when some groups may be targeted more than others. And I think it's incumbent on us for us to make that reach out to make sure that we're keeping our community safe. I think one of the top priorities and top responsibilities of a city council is safety of its residents, and that includes making sure that our folks are able to practice their religions safely.
Okay, we're going to go to Danny, then Dorian, and then Jordan, and then John. I think. Okay, so Danny.
I don't know who's done.
Okay, we're good. Go ahead, Danny.
Thank you very much. You know, as anti-Semitism is wrong, it shouldn't happen. Any forms of hate are wrong. They should not happen in West Hollywood. We are an inclusive city. Everyone here should be loved and accepted, but anti-Semitism is wrong. And when I'm on the city council, I will be working closely with Jewish leaders in the community, as well as Jewish organizations such as Kol Ami or Jewish Family Services. and invite them to hear what their needs are, to see how better the city can help the Jewish community. I would also invite Sheriff Luna and Captain Mulder into these meetings to come up with a protective security plan, how we can best make our Jewish community members feel safe. Increased foot patrols near synagogues, increased car patrols near Jewish organizations, especially during high holy days. So that's what I would do to reach out directly to see what the needs of the Jewish community are to make our fellow community members feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Dorian and then Jordan.
I think what we're forgetting is our history. West Hollywood, in most parts in the 70s, early 80s, was a place where immigrants from Russia who were being ostracized with anti-Semitic hate came into West Hollywood for safety. And we need to remind people that this is the place where you can find your safe haven. You can do that through education. You can do that through public safety, monitoring things. I know that we're starting a drone program where you can watch things. A lot of people don't feel like they want to be watched, but that's how you can police without policing. It is disgusting. It is hateful. It is hurtful. As a Black immigrant woman, I have faced a lot of those kind of talks and hatefulness because people just don't know, or people are just acting out of fear. And the thing is that we need to start educating people and let them know that it is not wanted here nor accepted here in West Hollywood.
Thank you, Dorian. Jordan.
Thank you. I'll be really quick. Just to respond to some of the comments that were said earlier, an invitation about what the Jewish community needs to help them isn't what's needed. Action is what's needed to help protect the Jewish community. The fact that we have to have 2 sheriff's deputies in the back here at a temple is only because this is a Jewish congregation. If we were at a church, a Lutheran church, a Catholic church, there would be no Catholic deputies here. We don't need an invitation, we need action.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. All right, John, please.
Sure. So the deputies are here because there were death threats given to candidates. So that's why they're here, just so everyone's very clearly aware.
Regardless.
No, they wouldn't, because this is a political event and we can't use public dollars on a political event. That's something that you should probably learn if you want to be on the city council.
Unless it requires safety, which it does.
Additionally, we have an amazing captain and Fanny, Sergeant Lapkin, who have been engaged with the previous rabbi when he was here for the interim appointment. I was in a meeting there with them myself in this temple to make sure that they had every resource and knew exactly who to call with code, everyone at City Hall. And then when Rabbi Resnick started, thank you to a couple of members of the congregation who sent an email to us at the city, making sure she had a nice warm handoff to making sure she knew who to call from our deputies, as well as anyone at the city, because that way that they had those first responders ready to go. Additionally, we actually do have a Jewish community safety plan. It was saved about 6 months ago when we were looking at plans that were going to be cut. And that was thanks to now Supervisor Lindsay Horvath, and it's been refunded and re-looked at every year as a part of the work that we're doing. And we always want to make sure that we're using individuals at all levels, and that's why I was really proud to go up to JPAC in Sacramento to meet with Jewish leaders this fall, or this spring, whenever it was, to talk about legislative changes. We're seeing a lot of anti-Semitism in schools, and we're seeing a lot of it all over. And so we want to make sure that we're doing all that we can to support statewide change as well, because there's a lot of restrictions there. So it's important that we always listen, and I'm really thankful to Kol Ami and the board and everyone here.
I'd be curious to know how often a sheriff's deputy is required whenever there is a change of priests at a Catholic church or pastors at a Lutheran church. Probably not nearly as many as there are at a temple or a synagogue.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to ask the audience, and Sandy, if you could please stand and identify yourself. So please raise your hand, and we'll call on you.
Sandy.
And wow, we got, okay. Oh, okay, I get to pick. So I'm going to go first. I think the first hand I saw up is actually just to your right, Sandy, like right in front. Yes, this gentleman right here, please. Please state your name. And
my name is John Conti. I've been a resident of West Hollywood 46 years. I'm a building manager. I've personally, as a building manager, done with most everything that's been mentioned. But I came here 15 minutes late, so I apologize if I'm redundant, any redundancy. But I've seen West Hollywood, who was a nice, quaint town, turned into Manhattan. I'm from New York. I'm a New Yorker. It's turned into Manhattan. I mean, they're going to knock down the Viper Room to build a hotel. They're going to knock down the whole block with the Viper Room to build a hotel, where there's already a hotel there. As you know, there's the...
Sir, can you get to your question, please, so we could have time for
my question is, the overdevelopment, to me, the council is on the take from the developers because they're just overdeveloping West Hollywood, and as far as safety, there'll be no safety. There'll be too many people. There's no parking because, as one of the I think it was George's sent out, the parking spaces for if they build a building is not sufficient for the building. So you won't have any parking. You won't have any.
Sir, can you please get to the question?
My question is the overdevelopment of West Hollywood. It was a nice town. Now it's overdeveloped. You're going to build you're going to build it, knock down the Viper Room in that big hotel. And what are you going to do about the one that's on Sunset Strip that used to be the Larry Flint place? Now it's been vacant, and that's it.
Okay, so why don't we take up to 2 responses? Does anybody want to respond? George?
I will go. Thank you. I believe that you deserve to preserve the nature of the neighborhood that you moved to because you love it. West Hollywood is many different neighborhoods, even though we're 1.9 square miles. We absolutely do need development. We do. There are parts, the Viper Room, where the Viper Room is, something needs to happen there. But it should respect the history as well. And more importantly, it should have had the input of the community. When they decided to move forward with that, you saw Councilmember Meister, who has endorsed me, Councilmember Heilman, who has endorsed me, said this does not need to go through right now. It does not need to happen. We could stop, we could have more residential, fewer hotels, there's a glut of hotels already, and that more residential would have meant more affordable housing. But they shut it down, they passed it through. You might hear the union supporting 2 of the people running against me, made a deal with the developer, whose money I returned, and they just pushed it through. So yes, you're absolutely right. We do need to respect the people's, what they want in their neighborhoods, and developers need to work with them from the beginning. I did it with my neighborhood watch group when development came in. It got built, but I made the architect, I made their lobbyist come and sit with my neighbors and put in double pane windows and pay for it, at least to mitigate the sound. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Larry, then we'll go on to the next audience question.
On the developments that you haven't seen anything yet. The land that has been entitled, whether you talk about ripping down between next to the Ramada and the other developments that are in the process of happening by Bikes and Hikes, Melrose Triangle, you haven't even seen anything that's going through. If you talk about the Viper Room that was just bought in 2018, it's 2024. That takes 7 years just to get to this point. It's not even built till 2030. You talk about the French Market, 10 years. There's not overdevelopment, there's no development. These holes are sitting in the ground. And we're not getting anything out of it but homeless and other things. And the idea is, how do we speed it up? But property owners have rights. They have rights to make investments when they buy that property and build that land up to the point that's legal by law. Residents are entitled to have input, and they have. Most of the developers are very, very sensitive and have community outreach. The Viper Room went through many reiterations. It was this ugly, ugly project, and they came back to the table with this brand new scale down 50 feet lower. And they came back. So the idea to just cost the developer millions and then complain about the cost of housing and things, yet property owners have rights to build, and we all have a right to have input, and that's the kind of developments we need to nurture.
Thank you. Okay, Lenny, you also have a mic, so let's take somebody on this side of the room. How about the gentleman there, whose arm seems to be the longest?
Hi, Nick Roybal, West Hollywood. This is a question for each of the candidates. Will you commit, if elected, to serve your full term?
So if you want all the candidates to...
Super easy, a 10-second answer from each candidate.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so this is going to be a yes, no. So do we have clarification? Because I would like it. What is a full term?
4
4 years. Okay, so we'll start with Z, and we're just going to yes or no. No qualifications, just yes or no.
Absolutely. And more if you'll have me.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
As an 18-year resident, 100% yes.
Yes, unless I die beforehand.
No, don't say that. You're in a place of worship, for the love of God.
Give your answer.
Wow, people are hostile. The answer is yes.
The answer is
The answer is
no.
yes. So, like, you know.
In 2 years, he'll be gone for state senate in his race. Yes, unless I'm sick, I plan on being here for 4 years as well.
The answer is yes, and we all have to pull papers from the city clerk, and we have to answer that question and sign a document that we're willing to serve for the term in order to become a candidate. So that question, we all have answered that question with the city clerk. Before
Sandy, thank you. Sandy, let's come to the front row here to this gentleman.
Yes, hi. I'm Vince Roncone. Been here for many decades. I know most of you up here. And Mayor Erickson, I'm glad you're
You
here.
also work for the Cotram campaign.
Oh, yeah. I work for,
Just
and I
so we're
consult
clear.
with a few people that have called me. So if you could give me a chance to talk.
Let's get the question.
Okay, so I just want to get something out. First of all, I do know you're running for state senate because everybody's calling me about endorsing you. So good luck with that in 2 years. I don't know what the cost with that would be. If anybody knows what the cost is for a new election, I think it's about $500,000 it would cost the city. Secondly, I've known you for years, we haven't talked, and every 2 years people change sides, so I'm not attacking you, but this is finally an opportunity for us to ask you questions. And I'm going to go back to the Stonewall meeting. So I'm friends with Janine.
Sir, I'm sorry, can you get to the question?
Yeah, so I would like to know why, when Chelsea pulled Janine's name, you attacked me. Why did I do that at the Stonewall meeting? And that was not cool, you wrote. And I have all the text, and I'm like, God, John, I work for people. I need an income. So you wrote me, that is not cool. And then you're going to pray for me. The question is, why did you target me at the Stonewall meeting when Chelsea Byers, who's sitting here, pulled Janine Wislowski's endorsement recommendation for Culver City Council? It was 2 seconds, and you were like all over me.
We'll have Mayor answer the question, but then we want to make sure we keep the question specifically to this re-election to West Hollywood. So John, if you want to
it's
answer
so
that.
personal. That's one-on-one.
Yeah, I think we're here to talk about issues. We can talk afterwards.
Okay,
if you
yeah,
want.
again, thank you. Thank you for the reminder. So let's please keep these questions. So now we're going to go to Lenny's side of the room. We'll go to the gentleman in the back there.
Oh, thank you. There was an article in WeHo Online today, a letter from somebody who's trying to open a business on Santa Monica Boulevard, who said that he goes to staff and he gets contradictory information, and the staff has actually lost his file. And then in another instance, we were talking about notice to the residents of Gardner who were given notice about bike lanes being installed, but were not given notice about the fact that parking was going to be removed. I have concerns about competence of staff. And is that a concern of any of the candidates? And how are we going to see better responses from the people we pay to serve our city? Thank you.
All right, Jordan, I think you had your hand up first.
Yeah, so, sorry, I need to set my timer because I need to know my own time. I will say I don't think it is necessarily an incompetence of staff. I would say that it's a lack of leadership from the top. And when the current city council doesn't care about what's going on or isn't interested in what the wants and the needs or whatever the residents want, they don't care. So it's not necessarily incompetence, it's more pushing through their own agendas. I think what you need is good leadership at the top, and that's why I'm running, and that's why there are others up here running today, because we want strong, we want positive leadership who actually care about the community, and those are the people who are gonna make sure that when those smaller decisions are made, I'll call them smaller, that the right decisions are made and that they're in the interest of the residents and not the interests of the council member themselves.
Okay, Larry?
In the situation we're in, it's time to change city managers. It's time to give the next 2 years, the city manager has 2 years left on his contract. It's time to start a recruitment process in a real fair way for a real great city manager that's gonna run this city for the next 10 or 20 years like Paul Aravello. What we have now is a COVID Band-Aid when Paul left and the city attorney left, when the new council came in, and it was very, very abrupt. And now we have to look for our long-term city manager that can weed out all the whistleblowers. When I have City Hall employees calling me because they can't get representation from their union, they can't talk to anybody and their coworkers, and if you read WeHo online, you could see many whistleblowers have come forward to talk about the dysfunction at City Hall. City Hall is broken. It really, really is. And we need to change our city manager and put an independent voice that comes from outside to be able to really let everybody be equal and not at this little clickbait of all the friends that all come from the same place, where they hire their friends. So it's my goal to change the city manager. That's one of the first things I'd like to do.
So looks like we have some. So hold on. We're going to hear from John. Yeah. We'll hear from. From Dorian, and then we're going to go on to the next question, and that'll be on this side of the room. So get ready.
So Steve, Collar and Combe, the person, we've been working with him. I've met with him a couple of times. It's coming down to the plan submissions that he's been giving to the second floor. Essentially, long story short, is his bulb out that happened there because it's going to be an enclosed glass case dog run. It's really pretty, actually, and there'll be an Intelligentsia there, and there's a whole nother store that he's trying to upgrade and bring that whole corner to life in a new way. He came too far out, and it's a whole rigmarole with trying to make sure he doesn't have to go back and spend more money. And so we've been working with him for a number of months right now. I've met with him several times, and he's met with Nick and David, our city manager, Nick's community development director. And so I just want to let you know that that's a really important corner, as you know, for so long being a resident. And it's and he's got the support of his landlord, which is super helpful in that corner because his landlord wants to invest in that property as well. And we have to make sure that when he goes to that second floor, which everyone has an opinion on the second floor of City of West Hollywood, because it's hard for development. There are some landlords and development people in here, right? We need to make sure that there's a better process for that.
Okay. Dorian, did you want to speak to that? And we'll move on to the next question.
Person who works local government. We have to look at the workload. The staff is the easiest person that you can blame. That's the first one that you can always attack because they're just doing their job. So you have to look into the workload, and you also have to look at both sides of the situation. They can say that they lost the paperwork, but in a sense they didn't sign something correctly, and they have to start the paperwork all over again. So it's easy to blame staff for things when it's actually our own doing. So it's just a full picture thing, and we should all do the full picture. As a candidate, as a person who wants to represent you, I could promise that I will look at full pictures of everything.
We have
Patrick,
time.
can I-
Yeah, we have.
Can I jump in?
Z, we have time for 2 more questions. I'd like to take it. So we're going to go with this gentleman here, and then we'll go with that gentleman, and then we will have time for direct visits. So if you want to remember, please introduce yourself and ask your question. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Peter Fitzgerald Adams. I live on Fountain near La Cienega. And you want to hold it? Okay. Yeah. All right. So Betty Davis famously said, "Take Fountain." Actually, it was after the stroke, so it was "Take Fountain."
I thought it was Estelle Getty, but it was Betty Davis.
No, it was Betty Davis. Don't mess with me about that kind of stuff. This is serious theater queen business. So it'll be impossible to take Fountain if these changes happen with the parking and the bike lanes and so forth. So I wanted to do a poll about each individual candidate going down. Who supports the big changes on Fountain and who's in favor of kind of
Let me
leaving
help
it
out
as
here
is?
because that could take a while because I think there's a lot of changes. So can you be really
When I
specific
mean big
about
changes, like
which changes?
getting rid of parking and adding a bike lane.
Okay,
That's
let's
that's
deep
where
into
I'm
that.
at. Yeah.
Raise your hand if you want to.
Well, just
add
go
bike
down
lanes.
go down the
Or we
line.
can
Okay,
say
so
no.
so are you in favor of the change that would add bike lanes and reduce parking? Is that a fair way to ask it?
I don't think so. There's no plan.
That's incorrect. I'm not in
The
favor of
idea.
it. We all know the plan. It's $400,000 have been spent on it so far. So no, I'm not in favor of those changes on Fountain.
Thank you. Next.
I have been vocally not in favor of them for over a year, absolutely.
Okay.
I've seen somewhat of a plan for Fountain, and although I am a proponent of bike lanes and having towns more accessible for carbon emission, walkability, I believe that we should first and foremost focus on fixing our sidewalks first.
Okay. Danny.
There is no set plan yet that has been issued. There's no set number of parking spaces that will be lost. But in a nutshell, I am in favor of creating safety on Fountain. Safety for people to walk on Fountain on the sidewalks and be safe. Safety
yes, he's
for
in
people.
favor.
Safety
Next.
for people in wheelchairs to ambulate on Fountain. I'm in favor of safety.
Yeah.
Pro or anti adding bike lanes and reducing parking?
I support making Fountain safer at any level.
But the question
But
is.
the answer is black. You're trying to make it black and white. There's no proposed plan right now. So
Okay.
if you want to operate in mistruths, I'm happy to talk to you.
We
about
know
what's
the
out there.
answer, so I'll just go next. No, I'm not in favor of reducing lanes on Fountain.
No, I'm not in favor of reducing the parking on Fountain, but unless there's a one-to-one replacement, which could come off the side streets and find a way to have it all. If there's a one-to-one replacement, I would consider it, but otherwise I'm against the removal of parking.
We're going to go to this gentleman here, and this actually will be our final question because then we'll have an opportunity for one-on-one. Lenny will help you out.
Sorry. Yes, my name is Alan Strasberg. I'm a 32 resident of I'm of West Hollywood, not West LA. I want to applaud, first of all, the people on the council, on the dais here, who were clear and concise and leaders in how they answered the questions, and I'm looking at least 3 of you. My question is going back to the city manager. Last time it was rushed, for whatever reason, will each of you, yes or no, commit to a national, robust search where the only box that's checked is professional competence? Yes or no?
Okay. Okay, we're going to start with Larry this time.
I'm a yes. Is it a yes, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're a yes.
Yes. If you're saying most important is your experience, professional competence. Yes.
Yeah, I think we should have a national search.
Yes.
Yes.
Danny. Yeah. Dorian.
Yes.
Yes.
So before we close the formal part of the program and allow for some mix and mingle and your opportunity to speak to the candidates directly, I also want to once again thank Wendy Goldman, who was the mastermind behind this. Sunny Southern California, so thank you. I also want to very specifically acknowledge a few guests that we have in the room today. By the way, everybody's important and everybody is special. What?
Closing statement.
Well, we're actually short on time. So actually, no, okay, due to popular demand, we're going to allow each...
You don't have to.
No, I think we're good. I think we're good. We'll let everybody come up and speak. But I also just want to recognize a few folks who are in the audience with us today. Chelsea Byers, thank you for being here, Chelsea. Also want to, Deputy Mayor, Vice Mayor, thank you for being here. Todd Hallman, Commissioner, Todd, thank you for being here. Mikey Friedman, retired board member, thank you, Mikey. And Steve Martin, former West Hollywood City Council member. So again, we want to thank everybody for being here today. Our candidates will be. Oh, I'm sorry, and Sarah Adolphson. Sarah, I'm so sorry, Sarah Adolphson. Thank you. That's what happens when you scribble with all these extemporaneous notes. So I want to thank everybody once again. Our candidates are available. We want to thank you for joining us here today, and we will be closing promptly in 32 minutes. So you've got time. Thank you again for being here, and as you leave here today, please go safely, and please remember to vote on Tuesday, November 5th, 44 days away. Thank you and have a good afternoon.
Or early. You can vote early as well.
Oh.